movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another 4-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family. Instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks, who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cold War Radio live on our home base, WAAR. We are America Radio, your number one source for streaming political and government talk anywhere. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in the bunker in my Smith & Wesson studio in the city of Pittsburgh. Please follow me on Spreaker, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio. You can catch the show on Blueberry, Roku, YouTube, iHeartRadio. You can get the Cold War Radio app for free in your app store and follow along with the chat room and everything else. You can email the show at hutch@steelcityresistance.com, and the Cold War Radio patron hotline is open at 412-567-1460 for your calls tonight. Again, the chat room is up on Spreaker. Go to steelcityresistance.com. There's a link to that, and there's a link to the show notes links. You can become a Cold War Radio patron in the right-hand column. And let me just do this because it's a running total usually, but let me just welcome Ginger H to the family, to the Cold War Radio patron family. Thank you very much, Ginger. We appreciate that, along with all of the other patrons that are lining up to carry the show on their backs. If you want to send mail, it's Hutch Bailey Jr., P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 15226. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. First of all, I want to cover down on these hurricanes. On Harvey, people are continuing to march and working together. That's going to get unpleasant, to say the least. At least it's not going to be. Well, I'm not really positive about the weather patterns. I guess it is going to be warm there in that part of the country. Usually the heat and everything makes that nasty, but God bless you guys. But now we're looking at at Florida, and we have mandatory evacuation orders have been issued for the Keys, and they say that these winds of Hurricane Irma have hit 185 miles per hour. I have even heard reports that this is the strongest hurricane that we've ever seen. I don't know if that's a fact. I mean, they say it's a Cat 5, and I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that's what I heard. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me welcome Jack from the Commonwealth of Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. Hello, Jack.
Hey, Hutch. Good to be here. Feels different in this studio. Cold War Radio. Honored, as always. A
little more chilly. We're hoping to get Jack in on Tuesday nights. We'll see how his schedule, if it can handle it, and we'll go from there with Steel City Resistance getting put in a suspension mode for now. But these hurricanes, Jack, they're this new one. I've heard people say that there's models that show it's not even going to hit, but then I see you can't get bottled water in southern Florida.
I've been following it on Weather Underground all day, and it's not looking good for Florida. I mean, most of the pass you have to the extreme, it might cross into the Gulf and zoom up. For me, I don't want this thing to even get close to the Gulf. And then the other ones, it's just basically turning and heading up the state itself. So the last report I saw is 185 mile per hour winds, Category 5. The allegedly eye wall replacements going on, and there's even talk on there that it could go even higher. They're talking record storm measurements since they started measuring storms. So this one is no joke. And there's some folks out there in the islands heading out there that are right in the path of it, and hopefully they can pull through this. This is a serious deal.
Well, you think maybe Almighty God is trying to tell us something? I don't know, something like this, when it's a storm that you've never heard the power of a storm like this. That's pretty intense. I mean, that's
yeah, it's major. And they also named Jose earlier today. So there's two. Jose's following straight behind Irma, and there's also something in the Gulf churning up. They've already labeled it as number 13, and it came off the Mexico coast, and it's right there. And they're worried that one might actually become Katia, or so that would be 3 hurricanes existing at the same time right now. It's troubling. So people need to. I wouldn't. You're talking. Cat 5 starts what at 155 plus winds when they say that's when total destruction occurs, and this one's pushing up towards 200. People are like, well, it's a Cat 6. It's like, no, they did Cat 5 because that would be total destruction. Why would you have to put another scale on it? Once you go higher than that, it's Well,
I got to do my job and point out the political motives that a lot of people are going to have with this. There's people right now that are just so excited because they're going to bring down the climate change and everything else, but I think it's more biblical than that myself. But anyway,
I saw one guy, Kurt Eichenwald, a reporter, I guess, from New York Times, did a little tweet on that said he put the climate change formula in and did his math, and the storm is basically his equation is being fulfilled, and I guess he's bringing in that element of the climate change.
Oh, brace for it! It's out there. Just like when the guy killed that woman in his car, we had to have gun control because of that. It's all ridiculous. I'll tell you something else that's ridiculous. In the land of milk and honey for leftists in Chicago, 7 dead and 35 wounded in Labor Day weekend shootings. So that's something that they ought to be talking about, the cause and effect of gun control. And in New York, now this is the part of the show right here where I'm getting a little bit sick of these local leftist politicians being entirely lawless. You had demonstrations in front of Trump Tower, and there was illegal aliens there. And some of those arrested were DACA recipients. And the NYPD says that the protesters arrested outside Trump Tower will not be fingerprinted if they provide their information willingly. No fingerprints means no arrest information transmitted to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. To me, that is illegal. I mean, that is totally. We've got to get a handle on this law and order, this lack of law and order.
We talked about that early when in the beginning of Trump's administration with these sanctuary cities, and my thing is the president should go to the governors of those states and say, hey, we're going to halt your funds if you don't get your cities under control. I don't like the federal government going and interacting with cities. I would rather him deal with the state,
right?
And put the governor on the line.
No, I agree with that 100%. That was my position as well. And then let the governor be responsible for it. If that's what you want to adopt, then your whole state can suffer. There's no reason that people from Pennsylvania's federal tax dollars should go to a state or a city that doesn't obey the law, nor should any funds come in to Pennsylvania if they don't obey the law. And all other 48 states are, you could pick and plug whatever one you want. Another thing that they're going to do, not just climate change, but what Congress is going to do, and there's going to be some Republicans involved, they're going to plan to tie this debt hike, this continuing resolution, government shutdown, whatever you want to call it, and probably all kinds of other things, to Hurricane Harvey and now Irma relief. I mean, they're going to try to do it, and Paul Ryan's going to be at the forefront of it. They're going to try to put amnesty in there. They're going to try to put everything in there so they can sail Harvey through, the relief through, and get all these other things under the radar. Pay attention. We'll help you. We'll help you understand what's going on if you're not following it that closely. But this is going to require, this month is going to be a very crucial month in making America great again or giving it up.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if they kind of held up the vote knowing that this mega storm is getting ready to hit somewhere in the United States, I think the 9th, 10th, 11th of this month, and then try to, ramp up that into the same continuing resolution, which I still can't stand. They need to pass a budget. Let's get with it.
I agree 100%. And I want to, today we got a mask came completely off, and GOP leader McCarthy was on Fox, and I want you to listen. He'll giggle right before he tells you that the wall's not getting built for a while. Take a listen.
Texas.
Is it true, though, that we were all worried about the funding for the border wall that the president has talked about? Now that we have this bigger pressing problem of the devastation from Harvey, that issue goes toward the end of the year. In terms of that continuing resolution, walk us through how the next couple of weeks looks in terms of the continuing resolution and the debt ceiling increase then.
We've got a lot of busy things happening here. So we have to deal with Harvey. We have the debt ceiling. We have a continuing resolution, which will be just about a 3-month continuing resolution. So you will deal with the wall a little later in the year. We have to finish off 8 more appropriation bills. We've got the budget to get done this month as well. And the budget is the beginning of tax reform because it allows us to go to reconciliation to start tax reform. Now, all that will get done this month. But for those members who get afraid and not want to tackle the tough issues, I say the sooner we do it, the stronger we are, and the more that we can get done moving forward and get to greater growth. Remember, Harvey is hit. We've got another hurricane coming. Texas, those families that have lost, our prayers are with you. Economically, Texas is hurting. Think about what an economic driver is Texas to the rest of the United States.
So there's the House Majority Leader setting you up to pull your heartstrings, and we're gonna get this funding through, but we're not going to do anything on the wall. And you just pay attention. It's going to get ugly. It really is. And I want to talk about now for a minute about these DACA recipients and who they are. Are DACA recipients all young people who pose no threat? And I've got several short clips I want to play for you to see what other people are talking about. Let's listen to the first one.
Abandoning this program is shameful. It makes you say to yourself, what kind of country are we right now? And this isn't a congressional problem. It's not a presidential problem. This is an American problem. Who are these kids threatening?
Dreamers, $460 billion over the next 10 years. The notion...
Children, these are American kids.
Right, but that's just not a compromise that you'd be willing to...
Okay, so there's the setup that all these are little rosy-cheeked little kids, and we're just evil and cruel if we make them follow the law. Now you're going to hear a man that I loathe this man. I can't stand this guy. I won't even travel to Illinois because they elected this little Marxist. Let's listen to Representative from Illinois, Gutierrez.
This president will do anything to target immigrants and families across our nation because he thinks it's good for him politically, no matter how wrong it is for our nation. But you know something? We're better as a nation than he is as President of the United States of America. And we will fight with tenacity to keep everyone that has DACA today enrolled in the program. When we took on President Barack Obama, we marched, we went to court, we were arrested, and we won. And we will win once again. I want to tell all of the dreamers and everyone in our immigrant community and our friends and our allies, we are stronger than we've ever been before. And we're ready to resist any attempt to revoke the work permits, the Social Security cards, the legality that has been conferred upon 800,000 of our youth. You know, our union is stronger and broader. Our allies are better and broader than they've ever been before. And that's why we're going to win this fight. And I want to say something so that we're clear. Yes, we will be on the streets fighting. Yes, we will go to the courts to fight. But we will also insist that our friends and our allies in the Congress of the United States don't sign a budget. Don't support a budget. Don't collaborate with Republicans. And give us a budget unless there's a safe place legislatively, an avenue legislatively that secures the future for the 800,000 DACA recipients. Let's be clear. We're going to fight in the courts. We're going to fight in the streets, but also we're going to fight in the Congress of the United States to make sure that legislatively we have a solution. So, I say no se agüiten. Nosotros podemos ganar. We can win. We will win.
So there you have a sitting congressman of the United States of America saying twice in that clip that we are going to fight in the streets. And they're already out there fighting in the streets. Gutierrez. And yes, you did go to jail. Let's listen to an American labor union chief executive, a labor union president, and his nutty analysis of this. Now, this guy's supposed to be for American workers. Don't forget that. Richard Trumpka, you're up next.
How much will ending DACA affect the economy and the workforce, in your view?
Well, it'll have a tremendous effect. It'll leave our workplaces less safe, less fair. It'll make it more difficult for us to come together to raise wages for everybody. There are 800,000 people that are making contributions every single day. Taking away their rights, making them exposed to being fired at will is not only cruel, it's very, very wrong for the economy. It's a wrong thing to do. So I think we would probably respond in two ways. The first thing we'll do is work with those DACA workers to make sure that their rights are protected, their jobs protected, and then we'll fight to get legislation so that the contributions that they make are celebrated rather than assaulted.
So there you go, 800,000 people from Central America working in America. That helps American workers, buddy. There's not a whole lot more that helps more than that. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the dingbats on The View.
Keep in mind that, you know, the gentleman who is called president always says this is about, you know, jobs. So I keep wondering what jobs the children have taken that he's worried about. But maybe I'm just misreading what he's saying.
These are people who have not been born here but came here as children.
As children, yeah.
Their parents weren't documented, so they have never known, in case people don't know what it is, they have never known any other country. This is their country.
And they didn't make the decision.
And there are other interesting
and
stats.
I think what's terrible that people don't understand is we have 800,000 dreamers right now, and they must, it's not a path to citizenship, right? So every 2 years they have to reapply. There's a $1,000 fee every 2 years, and they also pay taxes. They pay into Medicaid, they pay into Medicare, they pay into Social Security, all for benefits that they don't have. And guess what? We get rid of them, we lose $24.6 billion over 10 years. That's how much money these people put in, I think Americans put into our country. I mean, if the Trump administration is all about jobs, a lot of them employ people also, by the way, but if they're all about jobs and saving money and having money in the United States, then why would you then get rid of people who contribute $24 billion?
That's the lie, that it's not about that, because none of these kids or people, whatever ages they are from Sweden or Norway. They're all from these brown, so-called brown country, they call it brown people who are not white, non-white people. So there's racism involved here, and why don't they just admit it?
Well, he's not deporting, to be clear, Trump is not deporting anyone. What he's basically saying is, this is not under executive authority. When this thing came out via executive order from President Obama, the president did not have the authority to do that. This is something that Congress has to do. So what he's saying is, I can't do anything. He's saying, I can't do anything, so I'm going to shift this over to Congress. He doesn't, because the president can't make immigration policy, and President Obama...
Okay, Jack, a couple things here. First, The first thing that jumps right out to me in reverse order of the clips is ugly leftist women hate their skin. The white ones. They can't stand being white. Everything that woman says is about skin color. I'm talking about Joy Behar when she calls out that this is all just racism. That's all it is.
I always get an allergic reaction to listening to any clips from that show, so I'm probably still suffering from hives.
You need some calamine lotion.
Yes, anti-itch lotion, please.
I know. And the other thing that I really want to clear up is this false narrative that you heard throughout the clips, that this has something to do with these people's parents. If you think back to 2010, 2011, when this was going on, remember the vivid video and images. I've captured 5 of them on my tweets for the show tonight, of all these Central American kids on top of trains, on top of any kind of vehicle. They were coming by themselves. There was no adults except for the mules. The coyotes. The parents, I talked to sheriffs in Washington, D.C. that said that the girls' mothers pumped them full of birth control before they pushed them out the door. This has nothing to do with parents living here. This is a hook to get into the United States and get naturalized, or whatever they want to call it, so they can invite the parents in next.
You nailed it, Tut. You nailed it. I mean, with the Obama administration backing down on border control, allowing all the illegal crossings, and you had, like you said, the coyotes. They were bringing kids across. Once they made that law and invited, they said, okay, what about the kids? Norway in the chat room nailed it. They're pulling at heartstrings. You know, they go for the emotion. They said, what these kids? And to me, I'm thinking, why? I mean, it's this. To me, it's one of the sickest things you can do as a political tool is to use children. And that's what they did. They used children as a weapon and to attack our hearts, our compassionate hearts, and say, if you send these kids back, you are wrong. And it's not the truth. We are a nation of laws, and the laws need to be enforced. And since they haven't been enforced for so long a period, the problem is way larger than it would have been had our border control and ICE agents in these sanctuary cities didn't exist.
That's right. And I mean, this has been going on since Ted Kennedy. This didn't start. The last guy that knew how to deal with this was Eisenhower. But let's use some of the research of Holmes Leebrand, who is the fact-check editor at the Daily Caller News Foundation. In the wake of President Donald Trump's decision to rescind Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, former President Barack Obama published a statement on Facebook Tuesday that claimed DACA recipients were a group of young people that pose no threat. Verdict, false. According to information from the Department of Homeland Security, many DACA recipients are at or above the age of 25, and 1,500 have lost their deferred action due to a criminal conviction and or gang affiliation. Fact check. In his Facebook post, Obama argued that whatever concerns or complaints Americans may have about immigration in general, we shouldn't threaten the future of this group of young people who are here through no fault of their own, who pose no threat, who are not taking away anything from the rest of us. The claim that all DACA recipients are young people who pose no threat is false. The Department of Homeland Security released data from August 2012 to September 2013 on characteristics of individuals requesting and approved for deferred action for childhood arrivals. In this 12-month period, 75,000 applicants between the ages of 25 and 29 were accepted for DACA. The same report shows that 10,500 applicants 30 years or older were also approved. It is incorrect that all DACA recipients are young people, as that you heard the lies on the clips. In a press release from February of this year, DHS stated that since the start of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program in 2012, so I got my years a little wrong with the trains, approximately 1,500 recipients have had their deferred action terminated. due to a criminal conviction, gang affiliation, or a criminal conviction related to a gang affiliation, while 1,500 is a small percentage of those under DACA. It was just 1 year they checked, too. Stating that DACA recipients pose no threat is false. And I've told you this, ladies and gentlemen, concerning young children when they're alone like this. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. It happens with all different kinds of ethnicities. They get taken advantage of by their own communities in the United States. I mean, this is something that's occurred with the Italian mafia, with every single ethnic group that has emigrated into the United States. This has happened, and it's no accident. So, Jack, this whole idea of these are just kids, I just wanted to provide some ammunition for the audience so they know when to shut a lie down.
Yeah, I mean, our audience aren't incompassionate people. We're very compassionate. We care about people, but we also care about the law of the land. We care about enforcing it. We have no problem with immigration as long as it's legal. I mean, this sneaky way of pulling kids in and then covering them, and then they are allowed to bring their families in, that's like a shortcut through the immigration process.
Now, to me, I got to say it. I sent you something in your chat box, but to me, I think when we have a situation where we're $20 trillion in debt, that I think it's unconscionable that we have any immigration at all, legal or illegal. I think we should shut the doors down right now, today, until we can get our own house in order. How can we add more mouths to feed when in reality, if push came to shove and we had to pay back what we owed, we couldn't do it. We'd have to give our homes up. I think that's something that I don't mind targeted immigration when we can handle it. But $20 trillion in debt is not something that we can afford to pay. We have to start looking at that like it's real. And when you have people coming over here, the vast majority since Ted Kennedy screwed up the immigration laws in the 60s, in the early 60s, you've got people coming in here that are illiterate in their own language, let alone speak English.
Well, if you follow the news, we've also got it to the point where there's a possible spy ring within our Congress that have members of Pakistani ISA through the H-1B visa deal. And the thing that we can do as citizens is to identify all of these people in Congress that are supporting this type of activity that goes against the law of the land, and identify them and vote them out. I mean, we have a huge opportunity in 2018 to get rid of a large majority of these folks. So, I mean, the shows that you do, the Wayne does, and a few other places around there, and all these lovely folks that tune in and are pissed off, we can do something about it, you know?
That's true, and not the least of which, if you're on top of your game and you have the time and the resources, actually the resources, if you have the initial resources can come quickly when you're up against somebody that's unpopular with our base. If you can run, you go run. I mean, this is very important. We have there's a lot of people out there with a lot of experience, military and otherwise, that could get out there and run for political office. Now, there's some realities involved. Places like where I live and places like, Democrat-ruled areas that the population, the demographics don't support it, you're not going to get elected there. It's not going to happen. But there's enough other places in the country that it can happen. And there's a lot of congressmen that are in red states and red areas that don't deserve to be there. Those are the main ones that we need to get out. Now, something that's coming up now, Jack, that's really exciting is the mystery about why Sheriff Clarke resigned has gone away. He's joined a pro-Trump super PAC. And this is from Amber Randall, Daily Caller civil rights reporter. Former Milwaukee Sheriff David Clarke joined a pro-Trump super PAC as its spokesman and advisor, according to a Tuesday announcement. Clarke, who recently stepped down as the sheriff of Milwaukee County, will serve as the senior advisor and spokesperson for American First Action, A press release from the Super PAC announced, David Clarke is an American patriot, and we are very proud to welcome him to America First. Having spent a lifetime in law enforcement, protecting and serving his community, and fighting for justice and the Second Amendment, Sheriff Clarke doesn't just believe in making America safe again, he's devoted his life to it, Brian O. Walsh, president of America First Action, said in a statement. That's exciting news right there. I mean, that's a mover and shaker that needs to start moving and shaking things.
Yes, that's a good deal. I know a lot of folks were disappointed when he declined an offer to work in the Trump administration earlier this year. And he said it. I mean, he must have seen the tea leaves of the chaos that's going on there with the elite establishment, the swamp, working against the president. And he's like, no, I can help President Trump better in other ways. And maybe this is one of the ways he was hinting at. So, and he's a very strong voice, strong leader, strong law and order supporter, and no holds barred defender of the Constitution. So, kudos to that guy.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of something that snake, that bottom feeder, Luis Gutierrez, said in a I don't know if it was an interview or a speech. I listened to the clip a little bit, but it wasn't him saying it. It was somebody saying that he said it. Said that General Kelly tainted his military service by not standing against DACA's stopping. I'm like, you have don't even go near General Kelly. You don't have the bona fides, my man.
No.
Now, this is something that disturbs me every time there's an emergency such as these hurricanes. We saw some of it during Katrina. The Virgin Islands has allowed the National Guard to seize guns and ammunition ahead of Hurricane Irma. This is from Michael Bastoch at the Drudge Report. U.S. Virgin Islands Governor Kenneth Mapp signed an emergency order allowing the seizure of private guns, ammunition, explosives, and property the National Guard may need to respond to Hurricane Irma. Completing this poll with titles, no. Mapp signed the order Monday in preparation. That one got away from me. Signed the order Monday in preparation for Hurricane Irma. The order allows the Adjutant General of the Virgin Islands to seize private property they believe necessary to protect the islands, subject to approval by the territory's Justice Department. This makes me really nervous, and I'm going to tell you why. I served with these guys in the Virgin Islands National Guard. They were assigned as a security detachment, a maintenance company, but they were assigned as a security detachment when I was deployed. And these guys are not regular, like you wouldn't look at them as GIs. I mean, they are, and they have the same uniforms and the same everything. But I can't understand why don't they have what they need? You know, you were in the Army.
That's what troubles me, that they would think that they're so, I guess, undersupplied that they would need to seize the citizens' weapons to defend the nation. That doesn't seem quite right. My concern is, why aren't you getting the folks prepared and doing your best to help as many folks survive this? I think this kind of takes away from their preparation time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the whole thing is, you know, where's the Justice Department or the Department of Defense? You can't do this. You know, if you want to ask for help, maybe, but this isn't going to get any traction in the media. You're not going to hear they're not going to hear about this anywhere else. And it's troubling to me. It's the whole idea. I'm not down with all the different empires that we have out there, the Guams and the Virgin Islands and American Samoa and all that, and even Puerto Rico. You know, I don't like the idea of semi-states, because if that can happen, those guys are wearing U.S. Army uniforms. United States Army. Everything the United States Army has, those people have.
Now, aren't we a protectorate of those?
I don't know what it is. Now, I know it's like that in Guam, but Guam, we fought hard there.
Guam, it was Philippines a little bit with not as a territory, but to me, a lot of those places like Puerto Rico, I mean, it's like they play this. We want to become a state, and then we don't. We want all the money from the U.S., but we don't want to be a state. Step up, become a state if you want to be part of it.
And you come here and you raise your flag higher than our flag and La Raza and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, these people that we're talking about DACA, these are the people that are out at every rally. I mean, you should have seen them out in California this weekend. I mean, it's not a good thing. These people are not assimilating. They're all about, first of all, a lot of them have got it in their head that this is really their land. And that's a fact, Jack. I mean, a lot of them are taught that. And, I mean, I guess you could go ethnically and say that, you know, maybe there's some credibility to that, but it's not yours anymore. You know, yours is yours. You have your own country, and you have vast natural resources in it. Go develop those. Or come here and wave the doggone flag. You know, 412-567-1460. I know there's people out there itching at the, just want to talk, want to call up the show, 412-567-1460, from the conservative headquarters staff. This is entitled, This Explains a Lot. Republican National Committee Chief of Staff Sarah Armstrong is leaving the party's top staff position to become a senior official with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now listen to those two organizations, the RNC and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. In a news release Thursday, the powerful business organization announced that Armstrong had been hired as Vice President for Political Affairs and Federal Relations. Trump drained the swamp. Before serving as RNC Chief of Staff, Armstrong headed President Donald Trump's inauguration and was Vice President of the 2016 RNC convention in Cleveland. She worked for the RNC since 2009, including as Deputy Chief of Staff. Here's the important part. Just in case you mistake the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for your local Chamber of Commerce that promotes the mom-and-pop businesses on Main Street in your hometown, let us disabuse you of that notion. The establishment media tends to class the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as a conservative organization and assume wrongly that its lobbying efforts advance conservative and Republican interests, but nothing could be further than the truth. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and particularly its president, Thomas J. Donahue, represents the toxic alliance of big government and big business that we commonly refer to as the Wall Street, Washington, Silicon Valley axis. In other words, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the swamp. Don't forget that, ladies and gentlemen, these people, and make sure you get to SteelCityResistance.com and go to the show notes links, episode 506, and read this entire article. If you want to understand what's going on, Donahue is the head of the big club. Paul Ryan sits at the table. Mitch McConnell sits at the table. Trent Lott sits at the table. All the old congressmen that have gone away that now make millions of dollars from these groups, they're all sitting at the big table, and they're all plotting 24/7 how to take us out, how to take Donald Trump out, and how to take us out.
Yep, with a lobster and caviar crew. I know you've always harped on the Chamber of Commerce, and I did a little digging, and I was shocked because, like you said, from that time I always thought, hey, they're out there looking out for the small business people. No, they're not.
And your town's Chamber of Commerce probably is, but the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is a different animal. It's a hideous operation, and there's another one too. The Main Street Republicans. I can't remember. I'll come up with it at some point. But there are Republican trustees of these organizations. This is just the big one. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the big one. That's the big club. If you want to go and you want to really understand this, I urge that you go to conservativetreehouse.com. And if you comment or anything, make sure that you mention the show. But a lot of the stories through the election process, the primary and the general, the people over at the conservative treehouse have a way of analyzing things that they told us that the polls were all BS, and they were. And I'm here to tell you that if the Democrat Party, and this is why I can't stand the Republican Party, what I would be doing if I was up there from the first day that President Trump was inaugurated, I would have mobilized the Justice Department. I would have doubled the amount of people in that division, in the election division, and we would have uncovered in every state. We would have uncovered the massive voter fraud that happens. Hillary Clinton didn't win the popular vote, ladies and gentlemen. Do you believe that for a minute? Look at where the vote totals were. Look at where she won. My county, they're trying to tell me, in my county, she won by 100,000 votes. There wasn't a Hillary Clinton sign anywhere, except in the college areas. So that's what, that to me, that's a letdown for the Republican Party. When you have Project Veritas coming out and showing a congressman from Illinois' husband out there running the show on all the dark money and all the voter fraud that took place, when he's got people saying that they're busting people in. He's got people saying that they're going to Trump rallies and busting heads. He's still walking around free. And the congresswoman is still sitting there. These Republicans have got to go, Jack. They got to go.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're keeping our eyes on what's going on. We see this, and we're like half shocked, but then the other half is like, well, this is what we expected, because we knew that both parties are working together against the American people and have done so for decades. They think that they are beyond the reach of the average citizen. And we showed them by electing President Trump, which was only the beginning. We have to stay engaged like you're doing and make sure that 2018 we make a big, deep dent into this swamp. And maybe then some will turn towards what we want.
Well, I think
because right now they think their feces don't stink right now.
And
they can do whatever the hell they want.
Most of them aren't very courageous to start with, and I'd like them gone just because of that. But I think when they find out, and you'd think that they would reflect a little bit at the because what they're doing is they're protecting the bigwigs, the Paul Ryans. They're getting paid. They're making some money doing this in their own pocket, not just campaign contributions. But a lot of these Republicans are doing this because of their donors. And you would think that they would reflect on the elections that showed how insignificant money was. I mean, that was the takeaway. If you look at the difference between what Romney spent, or Bush spent, and Hillary Clinton spent, versus what Trump spent, it had nothing to do with money. You know, and you think they would learn that.
Yeah, that was a big wake-up call. You know, that's why the Clintons showed up at the concession speech in their purple Soros Revolution trimmed outfits. It was sending a message to those on highs, like, we're just going through the motions here. We're still on your team, Mr. Soros.
Sure. Did you hear Hillary Clinton? God, thank God she's not the president. But Hillary Clinton just is on a book tour right now, and they're dribbling different things out as they go because nobody's reading it. But she's actually getting on Bernie's after her machine stole the whole thing off of Bernie Sanders. She's blaming Bernie Sanders for what's wrong in the Democrat Party right now. After her and people like her destroyed this, I mean, Tim Kaine's son is in Antifa. These people are corrupt through and through. She's going to blame Bernie Sanders.
Yep, and I love that. I saw a meme that was circulating with that book. I think it's that
was funny.
What happened? And Trump's next to it. He said, "I happened." You know,
it was awesome. That was great. He even retweeted that. The president even retweeted that. It was good. Now, President Trump was right when he said the people who rigged the system for their benefit will do anything and say anything to keep things exactly the way they are, including hiring Republican National Committee's chief of staff to try to influence a president whose election they opposed. Wow. That's pretty deep, man. I mean, you can
see projected. I saw on One American Network where they were putting up potential Democratic opponents to a Trump re-election campaign in 2020, and Hillary Clinton's still there. Kamala Harris is there.
There's only one that scares me.
I forgot the other two, but just to see Hillary still there, I mean, give me a break. You know, she should go back to the woods, Hillary.
They're going to bring somebody on like Oprah Winfrey or Tom Hanks or that knucklehead strongman guy. They're going to bring a celebrity in.
Oh, they had Zuckerberg was one of the ones.
Well, he's a pajama boy. He's part of this crew, though. You can take it to the bank, as Ms. Armstrong will. That's the lady from the RNC. That Armstrong will not be calling President Trump and asking him to fight for America's working families and struggling manufacturing towns. She'll be carrying the water for Tom Donahue, Mark Zuckerberg, and the rest of the open border globalist elite that President Trump's voters thought he would protect them from. Shame on her and anyone else from the Trump campaign who switches sides to make money working against the policies the president campaigned on. And you know, the takeaway from that is, and I hate to use the same phrase 2 times in one show. I'll slap myself for that. But, you know, what's important about that is anybody who takes a stand against President Trump's campaign promises and President Trump's platform is they are taking a swipe at 70 million of us. And it's more than 70 million, as I said the other night. It was 60-some million people voted for him. Think of their families. That's not just one person behind that vote. There's kids and there's grandkids and everything else. You know, that's the part that gets me.
Oh, the people, and there's way more than that that are supporting Trump, and they all understand that the media, the whole establishment in D.C. is against him. They know that these fake race riots gatherings are staged to try to create division between the people. I hung out on the river, thousands of people as we canoed by. I mean, people of all race, colors, creeds, enjoying themselves. There wasn't a masked Antifa anywhere in sight. You know, it's people just enjoying the weekend. So don't fall for the faux outrage. Turn off mainstream media. Tune in Cold War Radio. Tune into Wayne Dupree Show. And if you can, tune in to One American News Network. You'll be pleasantly surprised at just seeing news reported.
Yeah, and I'm sticking to my guns. I haven't watched the news in months and don't plan on going back to it. When I need the news, I know where to go. And it's not the networks, and it's definitely not Fox News. Fox News, they came out with a report that really slammed Fox News's coverage from the debate that they did on. I mean, it was really bad. And you know, not a surprise, but from his hospital, he's out now, but John McCain slams Trump's DACA repeal, calls for comprehensive immigration reform. Who wouldn't see that one coming? That guy, man, he needs to retire. He just needs to step aside.
Bottle in front of me. That's what happened.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's totally worthless anymore. Totally worthless. You know, it's a crying shame. And there was one point when I really liked him. I liked the way, and now this is a long time ago, I liked the way that he stood up to military commanders, to generals, a few times. But then, you know, now that I see him, all he is a war machine. I mean, that's all the guy is. He has no... He wants to go to... He never met a country he didn't want to bomb. Him and Lindsey Graham. I mean, you look at the money that they're making from the military-industrial complex, and it's really criminal. The amount of places that he tries to get us involved in and has successfully gotten us involved in. There's just no shame there, Jack. No shame at all. I can't wait till he's out of the picture.
None at all. And to learn later in life, because, the whole time when I was a teenager growing up, McCain, he's a war hero, came back, Vietnam, POW, blah, blah, blah. And then, you get to dive deeper into the story as life goes on. You get interested. Most people aren't interested in that kind of thing. Then you hit an age, it's like, wait a minute, what's the real story about John McCain? And it's like, are you serious?
I know.
He shut down the files for all those families of the MIAs, the POWs, and the missing folks. Families wanting an end or a closure to their relatives.
And not just Vietnam either. Korea, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. But Jack, we're out of time, so give a last shout out and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's good to be here. First time on Cold War Radio. Be better prepared next week. It's an honor to be a part of it. You can reach me on gab.ai, Jack at Mountain. Thanks to all the folks in Spreaker chat room.
All right, I'll get that opened up for you that you can access those things next time. Everybody that's listening live, I want to thank you very much. Thanks for exercising your First Amendment right in the Cold War Radio chat room. Incidentally, the weekly Jihad report will be returning on Monday to our Shaping Our World episode. I think that's a fitting place for it to be. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Facebook and Gab, and Bird's Eye View on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. The Wayne Dupree program coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for letting us into your life for 1 hour, ladies and gentlemen. God bless.